Please listen carefully.
Hello again. If you are back to the Knock and Talk show, we greatly appreciate you.
Who are you?
Still Marcus.
I'm still Allison.
And here we are. Again, if you are back
Thanks for
after
hanging in there.
some of the other episodes, yeah, we greatly appreciate you.
Yeah, you've made it through.
We're glad you're back. We appreciate it. Hopefully we're delivering something.
Something. I mean, that's I guess that's the best way to label it is.
We're getting something out
It's
there.
something. It's something out there. Maybe that'll be our show tagline. Something. It's something.
That's all it is.
When anyone asks me, so what's your podcast about? I'm gonna be like, something.
Stuff.
Yeah, stuff. It's
And
something. But I do like something on our Instagram, like our little description.
Which
thing.
is what? What is our Instagram?
Knock and Talk Podcast on Instagram. So
Boom.
follow us. Put the little bio of something off duty, mostly on topic. We definitely aren't mostly on topic.
No. It's
Not even
scattered.
close. Not even close. But I don't know. It's a good time.
Yeah.
And because no one else is in here and it's just you and I, no one's really telling us what to do. So just do whatever the hell
We're
we
just
want
lost.
to. And
Yeah, that's all it is.
yeah, we're winging it. Winging this shit.
Although one day when we get famous, everybody can go, I remember listening to them when
When they were brand new.
like the first half a dozen episodes when
Yeah.
it was awful. And it's still awful. They're just awful to more people now.
Awful. And maybe when we get a little bigger, maybe we'll sound a little better. Maybe things will. Well, I'd like to do video.
Yeah, we'll have to try and get that figured out in here at some point in time.
Because if they could see the chaos that is.
That means I'm going to have to start wearing pants when we do these. That's kind of lame. I was just getting comfortable too.
Oh my God. He has pants on, by
I
the
do
way,
have
for
pants
those
on.
of you that want to get that mental image out of your head.
They're
but
just leather. That's okay.
leather chaps.
Chaps.
Assless chaps.
It's cool until I stand up and turn away from you, and then you can see what I got going on back there.
Well, no, I mean, hey, if we have the camera going, yes, that would mean that you have to wear normal pants, so that's good. It would require me to have to do my hair and put some makeup on, so that's also a good thing. It can't be a total bomb.
Do I have to do the same?
Yes. Yes, you would have to. You got to powder your nose a little bit
Powder my
so that
nose.
it's not so shiny on the camera. Maybe we would have to get a ring light. I don't know what those really do.
Okay,
but
let's.
I feel
let's
like
ease into
I feel
this
like
a little
people
bit.
who video, they all have ring lights.
Yeah, but not for that kind of video.
I don't know.
That's when you're doing your
I just like-
selfie TikToks and your.
I just like spending money, so.
Oh boy.
But then they could see what we're drinking while we're here. They could see how much we're drinking, which would then also make it better understand if we start, or make them better to understand if we start getting off.
Look, speaking of what we're drinking,
I sound like I'm drunk already. I've had one sip.
This Crown Royal peach tea in a can
It's classy.
is phenomenal. Rush out and get you some of that because that's good stuff.
You probably shouldn't tell them about it because then they're gonna all buy it out and then I can't find it for you.
Oh no, that's
Scratch that. I'm gonna edit that out. No one go buy it.
It's kind of hard to find.
It is kind of hard to find.
I don't know if it's just coming out. There's other flavors, but this is the only one that I've tried.
I don't like it.
And
I don't like it. It's
I don't
gross.
like
I
it.
don't like it. It's gross.
It's good.
Well, I'm drinking Babe wine.
It's delicious. Oh, it's
And I'm drinking
Babe
the lighter one, so that I don't get too schnockered.
yeah. We don't want to have to.
But it's in a can, so it's kind of cool.
We just drink shit in a can. If it's in a can,
And
we'll
if
drink it.
if it's in a can, it's classier.
Oh, is that
Yeah,
what we're going with?
if it's in a
I didn't know
can,
that.
it's classier.
Okay,
You know what?
wow.
You know what? This is totally off topic of where we're going today. So this is zero foreshadowing of what we're going to talk about today, and
We just
I
decided
can't
to do
wait.
this like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah,
so.
pretty much. We just left Target, spent a shit ton of money,
So much money.
and then now we're here. But it made me think about how much we used to be beer snobs, like
Yeah.
major beer
Yeah.
snobs.
And then you realize how expensive it is to drink.
Yeah, when you add it
Good
all
stuff.
up, when it's like you're going and buying a 6-pack of a fancy beer, and you're like
Or a 4-pack
a
sometimes.
4-pack of a
Ugh.
fancy beer.
Outrageous.
Do you remember those Hefeweizens that we found that we were like,
Oh,
these
we
are
were in love
so
with them.
good, and then we found out that they were like 2%
Yeah, weren't they like orange or something?
grapefruit.
Great.
We found out they were 2%. We're like, this is stupid.
Yeah, that's why they tasted so good. There was no alcohol in it. It was like fruit juice.
It was like fruit juice. But yeah, and that wasn't snobby beer, but I mean, kind of. I don't know.
A little bit. A little bougie.
We're not bougie anymore.
No.
I guess Babe Wine's kind of bougie.
Well, so is Crown Royal in a can, but you know, it tastes good.
I guess. But it's a lot easier drinking this Babe Wine. Babe Wine, you want to sponsor us? That'd be cool.
Or Crown Royal.
It's cool though, because I felt like having a glass of wine sitting in here was just very hazardous with all this
it was gonna end.
Technology going on here. I just didn't.
That's why I've switched to a cup with a lid.
Didn't want to ruin it. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Also, can we talk about how we were trying to get a photo of Benelli, the cat, that you keep hearing in every episode?
Jeez.
Fucking shit up. He was sticking his fat arm under the door trying to get in. So again, if you hear,
not me.
Yeah, the cat, not Marcus.
So
if you hear him again, I apologize. There's no, I can't figure out a way to like.
Well, they're not happy no matter what we do. If they're in here, him especially,
he's messing
upset
with
and wants
everything.
out.
No, he's messing with everything.
Well, he did try to take some stuff off the wall.
He tried to take the thin blue
time.
line flag off the wall. He was, I don't know, he's messing with the beer fridge.
He was just all over the
trying
place.
to get burned by the candle. He's trying.
Which actually happened yesterday to the other one.
Phoebe stuck her tail in the candle, and Marcus goes, "What's that smell?" And I was like, "I don't know."
Hair.
And he was like, "It smells like burnt hair." And I'm like, "Well, it's not me. I don't know. The candle's been burning for like hours." And he goes, "Go check Phoebe." And sure as shit, went and touched her tail, and I'm like, "Yep, that's burnt hair. That is burnt hair on her tail."
That's such a horrible smell.
She's never done that. At least that I'm aware of it
till now.
So she learned her lesson.
She probably won't do it again, though. I can tell you that much.
Probably not. So if you're part of PETA, she's okay. Please don't come after us.
We
don't harm our animals. We
there.
don't burn our animals. Please don't come after me.
Unless they deserve it, didn't we?
Stop it. Stop it. So again, we apologize in advance if you hear the animal noises. I can't help it. We're trying to keep them at bay.
Our
but
budget's not that high where we have a actual functioning studio or anything like that. So
or have a cat sitter.
Yeah, you're gonna have to deal with some of the stuff that's going. I can't wait till the neighbors start mowing the grass when we're doing this. Or
Toby's the only good one.
He is. He just chills.
He's just laying here. Abel's out in his pen, just hanging out.
Chilling.
He can't be in here because of the slobber. Otherwise, he would just lay here. And his big fat head would probably like destroy cords and
clean the table.
Yeah, he just unintentionally. He just is a klutz. So, okay. So I guess we should kind of. What are we talking about today,
Well,
Marcus?
that's it for this episode. Join us next time.
What are we talking about today?
One of your expertise.
Nope, don't say that.
Passions?
Don't say that. Nope, that's not a good word for it either. Nope.
Well, then I don't know. You set me up for failure on that.
It is an interest, a weird interest. Would you like to say it?
No.
It's the transgender moment. That is my weird interest.
There you go.
So I guess should I explain why I'm into it? Why I got into this weird interest first? Or should we?
It might be a good idea so we have a little bit of clarity.
Okay. Well, people, sit back for a minute because I'm going to give you a little backstory. I won't give you all the details. I'm going to edit it, give you the cliff notes of it. So when I'm trying to think the age I was, middle school. So what's that, like 12, 13, 14, whatever, roughly. 13-ish. I went on Weight Watchers because I was a little bit of a chunk when I was in middle school. And I don't know if any of you are aware of how Weight Watchers works. It's a little different now than it was back then. But you had a point system, which I think they still do.
I think it's what it is.
It's still that way, but it's a lot different. I had like 23 points or something. I remember very vividly what I would eat every day. Well, I was a little smarty pants, and I figured out that if I ate the points that I had, but discarded other points that I ate, meaning I would throw them up, I could eat more in a day and eat all the things that I would want to eat as a 13-year-old. And I thought it was pretty slick. I'm like, that's a good idea. So I started doing that for a while, and I lost probably 20 some pounds, something like that, 20 some pounds. No one knew what was going on. So obviously I'm getting a lot of compliments on it. So it's kind of rewarding,
fueling the fire,
rewarding the negative behavior that went on. So this continued, and I, without going into the psych background of it, like the whole everything else that comes along with it, there's more to an eating disorder. It's not about the food. It's not about it truly is not about the food. There's way more to an eating disorder than about the food. So if you know anyone with an eating disorder, please don't tell them to either just eat or stop doing whatever they're doing, because it's not helpful. So please don't do that.
If it was that easy, it probably
wouldn't exist. So it's not about the food, but that's how I figure that we call them behaviors. I have a whole language for it. We call them behaviors. Figure that out, and that continued for a really, really, really long time. So kind of toggle between not eating and bulimia. So anorexia, bulimia, whatever. Now I will say, as my disclaimer, I think a lot of people, when they think of an eating disorder, they think super thin, they think emaciated looking, almost like you could see it. Right. You look at someone and you can just tell, and that's not the case at all. I mean, it is not at all. I guess that's the best way to say it. There's so many variations of it that, I mean, especially when it comes to bulimia, I mean, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, doesn't necessarily cause someone to be underweight. You can actually be overweight and be bulimic. You can be overweight and be anorexic. So it's a very wide range of eating disorders, are very complicated. Shout out to my therapist who's put up with my shit all these years. But, so they continued for a really long time. I went through treatment for it, and I'm good now. I am what they would say in recovery. I'm not quote unquote recovered, but I am in recovery. But that being said, I'm good. No behaviors. I'm good.
Yeah, it's a very good thing.
Long story short, that's that. But so that being said, when I was in that age range, when all this started in middle school and high school, when it was rampant, I mean, it got real bad for some years. I'm not alone in that. There was a lot.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, how common of a thing?
I don't have numbers for you, but
it's more common than people would probably expect.
Correct.
Unless you have some type of firsthand knowledge of it.
Yeah.
Or experience.
I mean, it's not exactly something that you want to go and say, like, what do you do in your free time? I throw up.
Well, yeah. You know? I mean, you wouldn't want to do that with a drug problem or an alcohol problem.
You hide it.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I think it's like anything.
You hide it. You get good at lying. You get good at hiding it. And it's a really terrible, it destroys your life and it ruins a lot of other things along with it. But that being said, I wasn't alone, because I'm sure there was a lot of other girls, I'm sure in my school, maybe friends I had that I don't even know, maybe went through the same thing. I don't know. It's not like we sit in groups and powwows and talk about it. I mean, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to say be out of my life. It's a part of my past. It's helped me be who I am today, but I don't want to dwell on it, I guess. So my age, my generation went through a lot of eating disorders, and eating disorders, like I said, are more than the food. So there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of other mental health issues.
Other thing that you could pick up and do it more of a coping mechanism than the issue itself.
Correct. See, you learned something over all these years. So that being said, all those things combined, you use the eating disorder, from my understanding, like that's how I understand it, is that you use the eating disorder to like release all the things that are going on in the background. And obviously it's way more complicated than I'm putting it out right now, but I'm not doing an episode on eating disorders. Yeah. The point of this is that my generation went through that. It was very prevalent. It was very common. It was, I don't want to say a epidemic, a major thing going on at that point, but that was the thing. That's what girls my age struggled with, and body image and all those things. You needed to be thin. You needed to look good in a bathing suit. You needed to be this. You need to be that. Now we're in a different way of looking things, and we have body positivity, fat positivity,
Right.
the whole body image world has changed. And that's a whole different other topic, I mean, to go down. So the transgender moment caught my eye because actually it was a Rogan episode.
Is that what it's called? Is the moment?
A lot of people that refer to it, a lot of people refer to it as like the transgender moment. Actually, I just finished that book, When Harry Became Sally, by Anderson. What's his first name? Greg Anderson? Or I'm sorry, Ryan T. Anderson.
Not
Greg
to be confused with the movie When Harry Met Sally.
No, yeah, Ryan T. Anderson. When Harry Became Sally. Yes,
Okay.
it was actually an excellent book.
Yep.
And the reason I read it was because I heard rumor that they were trying to get it banned and taken off the shelf. So I wanted to, of course, get my hands on it.
Is it pro?
It's not anti. It looks at everything as a whole.
So it's kind of in the middle.
It's using scientific facts. It's looking at the politics of it. It's looking at everything and trying to understand it and put it together of like, this is reality,
right,
not what is happening right now.
Yes.
So the transgender moment caught my eye when I think it was Abigail Schreier was on Rogan, and I think you were like, hey, you would really like this episode because she was talking about eating disorders and how my generation went through eating disorders. And then she tied it into how girls today, and obviously there's more than just girls, and there's adults and there's younger kids, and it's not just specific to the younger girl generation. Like I was struggling with an eating disorder.
She had a book also.
Yeah, I read it. Irreversible Damage. I have it right in front of me. She's awesome. I love her. That was an amazing book. I forgot about that episode,
but yeah.
So she's the one that kind of really got me hooked. Obviously ordered the book immediately, read the book, and I was like, I am hooked on this. And again, I'm not trying to be weird about the interest in it, but I think my interest, going back to my eating disorder and like the things that I struggled with as a teenager, I felt like I was able to relate to the girls that she was describing in her book because they were going through the same things that I was going through, the same struggles that pretty much every teenager I feel like goes through.
Right.
Not necessarily eating disorder, but I'm talking about like
it's a
anxiety,
hard time
depression, all the crap that goes along with being a teenager. Figuring out who you are. Exactly. And they were going through the same thing that I was going through, and instead of using an eating disorder to deal with the issues that they have going on, they're just deciding that they want to be boys. Being a girl, in the long story short, and we're going to get more into this, long story short, in Abigail Schreier's book, it seems like it is so hard to be a girl nowadays, and I'm not saying this lightly, it's so hard to be a girl nowadays that it is almost easier just to be a boy.
So is that the biggest transition is female to male?
I don't know what the actual numbers would be now because this has like blown up. This transgender issue has blown up. And I guess I should say, now that we're 18 minutes into the episode, my disclaimer is I am not anti-trans. I am not transphobic. You be who you want. What do we say? You do you, boo boo. That's gonna be our line. I am not anti-trans. I'm not anti-gay. Like I'm not phobic of anything. You do what is best for you.
Absolutely.
My issue is that there are so many other red flags that are going along with this transgender moment, transgender issue right now, that to me are like, there's a lot more to this, and it's not, I don't think it's people truly wanting to be transgender. So that being said, transgender means that you would be gender dysphoric. So we're going to use a lot of different terms. What do you have pulled up here, just so I...
No, keep going. This is just stuff I'm kind of trying to teach myself. I kind of wanted to go
over a few definitions before, and I'm going to take this from the books that I've read on this, just so I'm being factual and I'm not just speaking on my own ass, pretty much, of everything. So the next couple stuff that I'm going to read definition wise, it is from the book The End of Gender by Deborah So. I also recommend this book. It was a very interesting read. It was an easy read. I don't mean that you're stupid to read it, but the way she writes, it was very...
Makes it understandable.
She made it easy.
Made
it, she's a scientist, but she made it...
More layman's terms.
Yep. She made it so easy to understand. She is very frank. She's pretty cool. I did a little bit like digging on her after I read the books. I'm like, she's pretty interesting. Like, she's just an interesting person. She did something like, I don't know if a sexologist, I'm not going to go back because I have my pages marked right now. Something like she studied sex. And she talks about the beginning of the book, like she's very vanilla in her own sex life, but she like studied, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but like different sex, that was like her field of study because it interested her and stuff. And then this kind of caught her attention, and then she started looking into it because she was like...
When was that published,
man, you're making me lose
I'm just curious as to like when this started to become such a...
Well, Google it while I start reading these.
Such a...
Because I have my pages
such a hot
marked,
topic.
Okay, so a couple different things. So she has a section in the book, and it's called Sex versus Gender, because they are two different things, okay? So sex is biological. Sex means either male or female. So sex is defined not by chromosomes or genitals or hormonal profiles, but by gametes, which are mature reproductive cells. There are only two types of gametes, small ones called sperm that are produced by males, and large ones called eggs that are produced by females. There are no intermediate types of gametes between egg and sperm cells. Sex is therefore binary. There is not a spectrum. You hear nowadays, and I'm sure our listeners have heard, there's a spectrum. I'm non-binary. It's this, it's that, whatever. So
if you're non-binary, what are you? Like you're just neither?
You don't conform to one gender. But let's talk about gender identity, okay? So, and I'm reading directly from the book. I'm not trying to plagiarize her. I'm reading directly from Deborah So's book. So, and she says, by contrast, gender identity is how we feel in relation to our sex, regarding whether we feel masculine or feminine. Gender expression is the external manifestation of our gender identity, or how we express our gender through our appearance, like clothing and hairstyle choices and mannerisms. Similar to sex, gender, both with regard to identity and expression, is biological. It is not a social construct, and a social construct is considered the product of one's social environment or learning. And she says, gender is not divorced from anatomy or sexual orientation. Despite what contemporary scholars may have you believe, all these things are very much linked. Biology, not society, dictates whether we are gender typical or atypical. The extent to which we identify as the sex we're born as, and the partners we are sexually attracted to. So, when I think about... go ahead. No, say what you're going to say.
I was going to read that, like the very last sentence here again, because
Which one?
Of what you just read, like the last sentence about who you are attracted to.
Biology, not society, dictates whether we are gender typical or atypical. The extent to which we identify as the sex we are born as, and the partners we are sexually attracted to.
Okay. Continue with what you were going to say.
No, go ahead. Okay. So I guess we're kind of going into this part. She's basically saying there are two sexes. Mm-hmm. It is male and it is female. There is no in between. Now there is I think it's asexual, and I don't have it marked in my book, where someone can be born with both male and female, like they're agendered. I think it's
agender is when you have both.
Something, look it up while I'm talking about it. There is very rare. It doesn't happen very often. Mm-hmm. The transgender activists use this small class of people to fight and say, well, see, biology created someone that isn't male or female. Does that make sense? Like they're using that to win their battle.
That's like not even the same
right
playing field.
Right.
It's choice versus
right. So, I guess years ago, and people transitioning to a different gender has existed. This isn't a new thing. It's existed before. It's just become more prevalent now, and all of a sudden there are a lot more people transitioning to a different gender.
Well, according to this snippet, just from the Googly here, transvestite originated in 1910. Yes, the term. So, I mean, you're looking back to at least, 1910 was like the earliest thing I could find as far as kind of when it...
Which I'm sure it existed even before then.
I'm sure, absolutely.
And one of the books I read, they were talking about different cultures that they idolize more feminine men in their culture. And please don't quote me on this, but I've read something somewhere where this is idolized. So basically transgendered men in that society are idolized and looked at.
Like transgender or just feminine males, or is there...
I don't know. I'm assuming sex surgery wasn't an option given where they're located and things like that, but just presenting as a female, being more feminine and things like that. So there's nothing wrong with it. And I want to make that clear. There's nothing wrong with being transgender. So if you are transgender, that means that you would have had a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. Okay, so gender dysphoria is a specific diagnosis that would come from the DSM-5, which is, pull that up, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. You have it on one of the tabs.
I accidentally closed it out here, so let me get back into it.
But it is a diagnosis from psychiatrists. It is a psychological diagnosis. It says the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, also known as the DSM-5, is a product of more than 10 years of effort by hundreds of international experts in all aspects of mental health. Their dedication and hard work have yielded the authoritative volume that defines and classifies mental disorders in order to improve, diagnose, for treatment and research. So it's the standard for diagnosing and treating.
So it's like the Bible of mental health.
Pretty much. That would be a very good way to put it. Yeah. So you, as a child, would have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria, which, like I said, has very specific criteria to meet that. So I will read those symptoms of that because it's specific. And so it says, according to the DSM-5, gender dysphoria in children is a condition defined by the presence of at least 6 of the following symptoms. So there are 8 listed here. So in order
you have to have 6 out of 8
you have to have 6 out of 8 in order to meet gender dysphoria.
Interesting.
So 1, a strong desire to be of the other gender or an instance that one is the other gender. 2, a strong preference for cross-dressing or simulating other gender attire. 3, a strong preference for cross-gender roles in make-believe play or fantasy play. 4, a strong preference for the toys, games, or activities stereotypically used or engaged in by the other gender. 5, a strong preference for playmates of the other gender. 6, a strong rejection of toys, games, and activities typically associated with birth sex. 7, a strong dislike of one's sexual anatomy. 8, a strong desire for the primary and or secondary sex characteristics that match one's experienced gender. And so here's the thing, is that when you're diagnosing this in a small child, you know as well as I do that children they can't lie. They can't make things up.
Right.
When we talk to kids, they're pretty frank with us.
Yes.
You know, if they see something, I mean they're pretty brutally honest. They might not understand what they saw or what they are experiencing, but they or not know how to explain it because they don't have the vocabulary to explain it, but they can't hide things, especially in their behavior. I always say at work, kids don't do things for no reason at all. And that might not be a proper English sentence, but that's how I feel. Kids always do something for a reason. Their behavior is always depicting something in the background, whether it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. And if they're having behavioral issues, it usually means that something's going on, and that could be abuse, that could be neglect, that could be something else.
Could be a catalog of different things. So absolutely.
Also with gender dysphoria, if there's something going on in the background because they truly have gender dysphoria, they can't make that up. And they can't hide it because that is ingrained in them. That is in who they are. They are born with that. That is them. That is that child. Going back to the girls that piqued my interest and that I related to, these girls were, as parents described in the book by Abigail Schreier, were the girliest of girly girls, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, showed no signs of gender dysphoria as children, showed zero signs of anything when they were smaller. They were girls. They liked boys. They liked girl toys. They liked girl clothing. They matched nothing of these 8 things. They didn't even meet any of them. Okay. And I'll put it this way. When I was a kid, I liked playing with some of my brother's toys because I grew up with a brother and I liked playing with some of his toys. Does that make me want to be a boy? No, but you're allowed to have preferences for other things.
Absolutely.
I've always said that I'm a more masculine female. That doesn't make me a man. It doesn't make me want to be a man. I just think that I have a more masculine personality. That's okay. You're allowed, there's a spectrum in that sense of your personality. You don't have to conform to a specific way of being quote unquote a girl.
Yeah, it's not like you have to be
male.
so strict within those lines or boundaries that
you're allowed to you're allowed to be whoever the hell you want to be. Like, you can do whatever you want to do. So these girls are girly girls their whole lives, and then all of a sudden they get to the age that I was, and instead of developing an eating disorder, they decide that they want to be a boy overnight. And that is weird. That is odd. And that is not normal. Okay? And so gender dysphoria requires that this diagnosis occurred in childhood. Okay? Because gender dysphoria, because it would be born into you, it would be who you are, it shouldn't just happen randomly 15 years later.
Right.
Okay. So you're telling me that you didn't show any. Now, maybe the parent ignored signs and things and whatever. That's a completely different story. But I'm talking about parents who knew their girls and knew that these girls did not want to be boys. And all of a sudden, now I want to be a boy. That's not okay. And that is not normal.
So
there's something else going on.
Like? Is there anything that's been linked back specifically? Is it a cry for help? Is it... So look at, like, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, things of that nature. Sometimes you're running from something, trying to hide something, bury something. Has any of that been linked to any of the transgender things that have come out? Like, are you trying to leave?
I'm no expert on this. Like,
right.
No,
it's a personal opinion.
I'm sure they're trying to escape something. To me, there's a lot of social currency that comes with it. If you're not familiar with social currency, that is the value you get and the friends you receive and the amount of attention you get, likes on social media, just the amount of attention you're getting. And honestly, in the world that we live in today, it is really hard to, one, make friends, and especially because no one's going to school anymore, so everyone's online.
Yeah.
So if you are a nobody and you're just I'm saying this, like an average girl, and you don't have any friends, and then all of a sudden you decide that one day you're going to be a boy, and then all these other girls that want to be a boy too, now you have a group of friends that you didn't have before, and you all band together.
You've created your own circle.
Created your own circle. But these are girls that when you look at them, they all would be ones who would be diagnosed with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, all the things that, again, translate back to an eating disorder or something.
Right.
And again, I just keep saying the eating disorder thing because that's where I related
It's
to it.
something
And
to
I'm
relate
like,
to, right.
wow, it is very parallel in a lot of different ways with it. But it's scary to me that why all of a sudden has this been pushed, on these kids. And I mean, I have my opinions on it and everything, but I think the trans activists who, let me backtrack. People who are truly transgender. Pull up the one guy that Rogan always talks about. He's the super buff. Oh my gosh, what is his name? Buck Angel.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to see some of the pictures that he has posted up.
Well,
okay. He talks about him a lot. And he's just an example. He presents very well as a man.
right.
Okay. But
Do you know any history on this?
I don't know any history on it. I listened to his episode, but I don't remember anything crazily specific on it. But here's my thing is that I shouldn't say that. We're gonna good thing we're not on YouTube because we totally get canceled for this. But people who are trans, they aren't out there trying to get other people to be trans. They're not out there. Obviously, if we're looking at just Google where it's all about Buck Angel and his transition and all the things that he does and the platform he has now and whatever. But
what does he do? Is this accurate?
I'm not really sure.
Is this accurate?
I think so. Yeah. But he
do your own research because it gets
just you can look it up if you want. But I think he promotes positivity in the transgender world, but he's not calling for more people to be transgender.
Right.
Does that make sense? So you can be, I guess, an activist in the sense of being positive about your whatever, just like I am positive about females. Don't consider myself a feminist.
Right.
I don't want to go out there and be like, fuck all the men, we need to do this, we need to do that, whatever. But I am pro-female. I want female empowerment and I want women to do good in this world.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to tear down the men of the world and be a radical feminist, at the same time.
You can build yourself up without tearing others down.
Correct.
Right? I mean, that's...
So the trans activists are... I don't even know if some of them are actually trans people.
They may not be.
I don't think they are, because the trans people that are out there, from my understanding, are not the ones that are a part of pushing this agenda.
Right.
And not only does Abigail Schreier's book is what speaks to me, it is there's a couple other things that really kind of grind my gears a little bit with it. But what really bothers me is the kids now, because that is really where this issue is going and why I kind of wanted to talk about this today. Because if whoever is listening, if you have children, I would really like you to take it upon yourself and have a conversation with your child. You don't have to bring anything up about trans, but ask them what they are learning in school generally and look at what they are bringing home from school. Because there are a lot of schools now that are pushing gender studies in their curriculum. They're pushing critical race theory stuff. That's a different topic, but they're also pushing gender studies into their curriculum.
Do you have any idea of
for example,
a starting age group?
I don't know.
Is there a targeted class or age group, or is it just
young? It is young. I don't have the actual number. It is young.
But what better way to implement
indoctrinating our children?
100%.
There might be an age that's listed here. Okay, so now I'm looking at Ryan T. Anderson's book, When Harry Met Sally, When He
Became Sally.
So one of the things that they're using, or were using, to teach children about trans is the genderbread person. Well, the genderbread person no longer was good enough. So now they use the gender unicorn. And that is how we are teaching our children about gender. So they are teaching gender identity, gender expression, sex assigned at birth, who you're physically attracted to, and who you're emotionally attracted to. And not only that, but they're leaving it up to parents to choose what gender, leave their birth certificate blank, and choose what gender their child will be once they're able to determine that. So that apparently the doctor who you are, when you're having your child, and they usually are pretty easily able to identify what sex, biological sex, your child is, because biological sex, as we learned from Deb Rousseau's book, is defined by the two different gametes, which present with physical attributes that are pretty specific to a penis and a vagina.
Just needed clarity, that's all.
Okay, well, we like clarity here, so okay, let's not spill things here for all the equipment.
You said penis and vagina, and I got flustered. Now I'm spilling shit.
But they're leaving it blank because apparently, as a trained doctor, after how many years of medical school, they apparently can't determine what sex the child is, and it should be up to you to determine that sex. And because if they determine that sex, and for whatever reason that child decides to change that sex, they might be depressed and they might have a hard time because they were misgendered as an infant.
Is that like the norm for everything, or is that, I mean, it's just how we're doing it now? As far as,
I don't think every hospital is doing it. Like, I don't think it's a standard across the board.
So it's probably out west is really where it's happening.
Probably. I mean, I could be wrong. It could be around here. And we've talked with the guys at work, and I'm pretty sure they all think I'm crazy. And if anyone were listening, they're like, here she goes again. She talks about this shit all the time. I've told them, like, have you asked your kids what they're learning at school? Have you asked them?
That's crazy.
So here's where it gets more screwed up. This is where I'm really starting to get bothered. And again, all this is my opinion, and this is where I get lost in these black holes of just going down with not YouTube, not social media, but reading books and reading different things and whatever, is that they're teaching kids the different genders and all that stuff in school. And the reason I wanted to start reading from these books and like getting some definitions so that I don't sound like I'm just talking out my ass, like there's actual I have a little bit of knowledge behind it that I've actually read about. But anyways, they're teaching these kids the different definitions and all that kind of stuff, and indoctrinating them with this knowledge at a very, very, very young age, when kids are very impressionable. Mm-hmm. And if you tell them that the sky is fucking purple, guess what they're going to color the sky as? Yeah. Purple. Or if you tell them it's green, they're going to color it as green. I mean, it's simple as that. You can.
I'd be really curious to know, like, when they start.
You can see if you can find it. But this really irks me. If a child would like to change their name in some schools, they are not required to notify the parent that child has chosen, and I'm talking male or female. So, for example, what did you find?
Most kids categorize their own gender by the age of 3 years old.
Why would they categorize their own gender?
When you're still eating crayons and
glue.
I mean, I ate glue well into middle school, but that's just me. But no, I don't know. And again, this is just stuff I'm Googling as we're sitting here. So,
but they don't.
Who knows the accuracy?
So let's use the example. Little Johnny is at school, learns about the gender unicorn, decides that, I like to play with girl toys, so I must be a girl. Which maybe he does have some, and maybe he does, and I'm being devil's advocate here. Maybe little Johnny does have gender dysphoria. Maybe little Johnny does present some things, and a doctor should, a psychiatrist should diagnose little Johnny with gender dysphoria. But little Johnny decides for himself, without any sort of diagnoses, but because he was taught in school that he has the option to be whatever he would like to be, which I just would like to interject that there are interject myself. There are over 100 genders, people. So I am not talking about a girl or a boy. You can be a tree. And I'm not kidding. You can identify as a tree. You can identify as a two-spirit. Do you know what a two-spirit is? I don't either. I don't know it either. No. I don't know what a two-spirit is. I'm not poking fun. I just don't understand it. I don't understand where all this is coming from. And the 100 gender, I can't put a specific number to the gender because it is constantly changing and evolving, and there are more and more and more. So anyways.
Well, yeah, what did we hear a couple months ago? There was 52
or something I found. And now it's over 100.
Now we're to 100.
Over 100. So little Johnny decides that he wants to be a girl. We'll go with two genders right now. We won't get complicated here, okay? Little Johnny wants to be a girl, so he wants to be called Susie. Little Johnny, now Susie's teacher is not required to notify the parents that Johnny is being called Susie at school. But the teacher will now refer to Johnny as Susie, and when Johnny goes home, he will be called Johnny by his parents and the teacher does not have to make notification. The school does not have to tell the parents. They don't have to tell them anything. And then even better, we'll flip the situation. Maybe it was little Susie who now wants to be little Johnny. Gets older, around 15, I think was one of the states I heard. Little Susie, who now wants to be little Johnny, decides, you know what? I really want to be a boy. I don't want to just be called Johnny. I really want to be a boy. So I need to go get T. Do you know what T is? Testosterone.
Here you go.
And I'm going to go get testosterone. And guess what? I don't even need parental permission. And I can just go get it myself.
At any age?
There's some, I think it was like 13. And I'm trying to recall from all the different things I've read. It was like 13. I read somewhere 15. There might be some that are a little bit older, maybe like 16. But yes, you can walk into this clinic and you can get it. So prior to testosterone, another thing that's really screwing up kids, and now I'm getting all flustered, now I'm getting all angry talking about this, is they do puberty blockers. So if, as a parent, you're worried that your child might change their mind on their gender, you can stop their puberty because the doctor will tell you, it has no effect on their health. It's not going to harm them in any kind of way. You could just put a halt on their puberty until they decide what gender they want to be. Do you understand the repercussions that come with halting puberty? A lot.
So can you give us? I don't. So can you?
It's like they become underdeveloped. The boys, like they don't. If it's a boy who halts their puberty and then they decide that they still want to remain a boy, like they don't physically fill out in the way that they normally would. I think it was something like they end up having smaller testicles, sperm count was lower. It might cause infertility. I know testosterone causes infertility, pretty much makes the uterus just die and wither away. So these girls are just preventing themselves from having.
Does it have any negative mental effects? Or is it more just physical side effects?
I don't know that for sure. I'm assuming the puberty blocker would have some sort of mental effects because you think about puberty and all the things that come along with puberty.
That's why
it would have to have some sort of effect on you're preventing that
everything
growth.
Grows. I was going to say,
You're preventing
not just
that.
your
You're
body, but
it.
your mental health, stability.
Right.
It's
crazy. And then also, if you would like your boobs removed, you can do that too. And
at a young age.
At a very young age, you can get your boobs removed. And guess what? Sure, you can get fake ones put back on, but if you decide that you want to be a girl and you would like to have a child one day and you'd like to breastfeed, you can't breastfeed with those fake boobs.
And again, that could be done with no parental consent.
I'm not 100% sure on the
But
mastectomy.
I still have to have a parent signature to get a tattoo.
Correct.
I can't buy alcohol till I'm 21.
Correct.
Can't buy tobacco till I'm either 18 or 21, depending on where you're at in our state.
Correct.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And you think about, when I think about myself at 13, 14, 15. I thought I was the most mature person ever.
Well,
I was an immature little fuck.
Let me tell you some of the issues that come along with thinking you're an adult when you're young.
Well,
Speaking from someone who had a child at the age of 17. You are not capable mentally, physically, and that's at 17. I mean, it's closer to being a legal adult than 13, 14, 15,
I agree.
I don't think you get to make those decisions.
No.
And if you do, or if you think you can, then you can go out and get a job at that age. And you know what I mean? Obviously, things are set in place for a reason as far as the age you can be to do certain things. And I think that should also be in there. You know what I mean? If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Guess what? I wanted to live on my own. I wanted to be able to buy tobacco products. I wanted to be able to get tattoos and buy alcohol. But I had to wait till I was a certain age to where I could hopefully do it a little more responsibly. Which, as we know, even at that age, you're not doing anything responsibly.
No.
For the most part, right? I mean, that's life. That is what it is.
Right.
So I'm sorry, but you should not be able to make those decisions.
Major life-altering decisions.
100%, because and maybe that's some of the issue is people don't understand maybe the long-term effects or the serious side effects or...
And I think that's because there's a push for affirmative care.
Which is?
So instead of... everyone's afraid of being called a transphobe. Okay?
Right.
And losing their medical licenses. And so affirmative care is pretty much if someone comes to you and says, I am transgender or I have...
They just go with it.
They have to just roll with it. And they just... And I'm putting this very like simply in like simple terms of they just have to affirm your belief system.
So you've pretty much bullied or scared somebody into going along with you. Because if you don't agree or give them what they want, then you're at risk of losing your profession, your license, your whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you can be civilly responsible.
Right.
Or accountable. And
so I guess let me go back a little bit. I asked my mom one time after I read Abigail Schreier's book, because that was the first book I read after listening to her. I asked her, and this is going to sound like really dark, and there was a lot more to the conversation, but I said to her, I said, Mom, what if instead of when I was that age of having an eating disorder, and listen, I give a lot of kudos to my parents because I put them through hell, and they put me in treatment. They did all the things for me. I mean, they did everything that they could for me, and I was very resistant to that treatment because
as you are at that age,
because I didn't want it.
Right.
To me, it wasn't. I would want it, but then I didn't want it. It was easier just to fall back into whatever. But anyways, I digress. But they did a lot for me. They tried, and as a parent, if any parents are listening, you can only do so much for your kids. You can't get inside their head and you can't fix them. You can only love them, care for them, and provide for them and give them the best opportunity that you possibly can. You can't actually fix the problem. You can't get inside them and fix whatever issues they're having going on. You can only give them the means to fix it and continue to just give them everything or give them all that you can to fix that. Right. And until they want it, then they'll fix it because it didn't take me. I mean, I still had my issues when you and I first started dating. And that was 6 years ago. Yeah. So, and just in the last, what would you say, 2.5 years? 2.5 years, things have gone really well for me. Like I've gotten better. So if that puts anything into perspective, I'm 30 years old and this started when I was 13 years old. So it was a really long time. Anyways, I asked my mom, I said, what if I would have came to you when I was, we'll say 15. So, cause she didn't know about anything when it first started. When I was 15 and I said, instead of having an eating disorder, Mom, I want to be a boy. She goes, well, I would probably get you into therapy, not trying to fix me, but to figure out what is going on.
Right.
Like try to talk to someone,
It's not
figure
a
out what's
common
going
thing.
on. Like
So there's something.
it came
there's
out of
an
nowhere.
underlying issue.
And I prefaced it with knowing I was girly. I didn't show any of the gender dysphoria. I didn't meet any of that criteria growing up. I was just me prior to. When I like describing, but just me. Oh boy, I was me. I was special. But she said that I would get you to a therapist, but she brought up a good point. She said, I wouldn't allow you to go to therapy alone. Which I was like, can you explain more of that to me? She goes, because I wouldn't want you to go in there and you have a therapist who affirms you. And she hasn't read these things.
Right.
She does not get deep dived into crap like I do. She lives her own life and does the things that she wants to do. She doesn't read all this crap. She goes, I wouldn't want you to go alone in there because I would want to know what they're telling you, what they're instructing you to do. I would just want to be there.
Which makes
I was like
absolute sense, 100%.
I could get on board with that.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, how about this situation? I said, what if a doctor or a therapist or whoever comes to you and said to you, because I said at this point, I want to transition. I want to start taking testosterone. I want to be a boy. I am dead set. I want to be a boy. I'm doing all the things to get there to be a boy. And the doctors who are doing this for me to get me on this path to being a boy or tell my mom, if you don't do this for her, she's going to kill herself. What would you do as a parent?
Man.
And I'm not being dramatic. These are the stories.
This is stuff that's actually happening.
These are the stories that Abigail Shire, when she talked to parents in her book. So I'm not a crazy person coming up with these stories. These are the stories that these parents tell, that they're being threatened, that if they don't do these things for their kids, that their kid is going to kill themselves. Now, how as a parent are you able to, with a sound mind, able to do anything but affirm what they believe? Because could you live with yourself?
Absolutely. Nobody could.
Right.
Nobody could.
Right. So now that is why.
But isn't the fact that if you're having those types of thought and ideations of hurting yourself or killing yourself, isn't that a clear indicator that there's obviously something
else going on?
Yes.
And transitioning to a different gender isn't necessarily
doesn't mean it's going to go away.
Fix.
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
Now there's different, and this is fast forwarding. There are transgender people. Just because you're transgender, I think there's a lot of misconceptions that go with it. Doesn't mean you have to have sex changes. So you can be a transgender woman, which is a male who identifies as a female.
Okay.
And still have all your male parts.
This is going to sound weird. Caitlyn Jenner,
I believe, had the surgery.
Okay. So fully
Yes.
transitioned.
See, I think that, to me, I don't like that term, fully transition, because
okay. Well, excuse me if I'm I don't, because
like I said, I'm not anti-trans. I'm anti what is going on with the kids right now,
right,
and what is going on with the girls that were in my position. That is what I'm anti. I'm anti pushing this agenda on our younger generation who's going through a lot of shit right now. And I'm not even just talking about like the COVID and all that, but just the growing pains of being young and being impressionable and being easily influenced. And instead of guiding them to just be who they are and encouraging them to just be whoever they end up being,
right,
we're encouraging them to basically be unicorns and individual, and, you know, to be special. You should probably change your gender, and you should do this. Like, okay. This is another sidebar. Demi Lovato. Listen. I loved Demi Lovato. She was my girl.
Something I did not see coming.
Loved her. Because when I with all the body image stuff, especially with going through treatment
Right.
for the final time, like the more in-depth stuff that I was doing, Demi Lovato was a very good person for me to look to, that I'm like, hell yeah, she is a beautiful girl and she's not a size 0.
It puts a I don't know the word I'm looking for. She's still human being. She humanized, what she is, who she is,
that
what she
women
does.
are allowed to be
100%.
different sizes and not size
Absolutely.
0.
Yeah.
Like
No,
you
yeah,
can be,
absolutely.
you can still be beautiful.
Yep.
So yeah, loved her, looked up. I mean, I feel like I not idolize. That's like being dramatic, but I did. I
Right.
really looked up
There's
to her.
nothing wrong with that.
And I really just was inspired by her body positivity and all the stuff she was putting out there. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. I changed my whole social media following and got away from all like the fitness models and all the things I was like quote unquote aspiring to be, and was like, I need more people like Demi Lovato in my feed, because to me that is more fitting of what is realistic to me,
Right.
and what my body is going to look like. I'm never going to look like these social media models who have now fixed themselves with, the different apps so you can change your body. It's not even realistic. It's not real.
But you put a expectation or a standard on how you should be
That I was trying to achieve
in order to be a meaningful human, or
Right.
you know what I mean? And I have an issue with that. I think it's
Right.
I think it's bullshit. I mean,
agree.
I do.
I agree. So now, all of a sudden, if those of you who don't know, Demi Lovato has come out as non-binary, and she identifies with the pronouns of they and them, I believe, is her pronouns. She might be like they and she or something, but they. You refer to her as, I can't even say her. It's they. Demi Lovato is they. So when you speak about they, you say they, is not, which doesn't not make sense. If any English teachers are listening, it does not make sense, okay? I am not an English major, but that does not make sense. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, but she's proclaiming that this has always been who she is. Always.
But when you look at her history, she had an eating disorder. She had a drug abuse problem. That's when I go back to this.
She had non-normal childhood.
Right, but this is when I go back to when I asked you a little bit ago. Is it possible that sometimes, not all the times, because hey, again, maybe there's just people that have a genuine feeling of this is who they are, this is what they need to be, and again, that's okay.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. But when you take somebody who has all these other issues or history or whatever the case may be, is she doing it to get away from everything prior?
Or is she doing it for social currency?
Which
Because now
is
she has a
also
completely
very possible,
different
yes.
image. She has a show about it. She has
really? I didn't know that.
it's Demi Lovato 4D. And she
What's that on?
interviews, it's like a podcast or interview show, and she talks about the gender
How old
issues.
is she?
She's right around my age. She might be either a year or two younger or the same age, something like that. So I used to really identify with her because I felt like, wow, the eating disorder history. Obviously, I didn't have a drug issue or anything like that, but just the struggles of going through being a teenager. It fucking sucks.
Which is, look, like we said, it's already a hard time.
Oh yeah, it's brutal
for anybody to go through.
It's brutal for girls.
It is. And it's only gotten worse now with social media and having to have, this image, that image, this many followers, this many likes. It's hell on kids.
It is.
And I'm sure it's worse, obviously, for females than it is for males.
I'm not trying to downplay what boys go
No,
through.
but I agree with you. I do think it's different. I think it's very different for boys and girls. It was difficult for me going through, middle school, high school. Again, trying to figure out who you are, what you're gonna be, what. And then
you had a different path too, which also kind of compounded
I did,
and made
but I was a
path
little
different.
bit. That was a little further on. I mean, I was 17, so
Right.
I'm a junior in high school.
Right.
You know what I mean? That obviously brought its own set of issues and consequences, and obviously. But I couldn't imagine going through that nowadays. I really couldn't. If you don't wear, this type of clothing, or have these shoes, or drive this, or have this phone, you don't equate to everybody else. It blows my mind. And there was some of that, obviously. That's always been around. Right. Bullies have always been a thing. You've always had to be, a certain way to be the cool kid.
Listen,
but
growing pains. It toughens you up a little bit to have some degree of, you got to have a little,
100%.
a little struggle. Everyone needs a little struggle to grow,
with that. Yes. And I think that's an important aspect of life, and things that you're going to go through and accomplish. But I just nowadays, I can't wrap my mind around some of the shit that's going on and the pressure that is put on these kids.
A lot.
Kids. They should not have pressures. They shouldn't have to worry about half the shit that's going on in the world. And I don't know.
They shouldn't be deciding what gender they are, because here's my thing.
They don't even know who they are as a human being. They don't know
who they are, but here's my thing is that why do they have to put a title to it? Why can't they just let them I literally hate this word. Why can't they be authentically? I hate that word so much.
Authentic?
I hate because everyone says authenticity. You need to be authentic. Everyone's authenticity. But let them be authentically themselves.
Then you figure everything else out later.
But let them just genuinely grow up. Yes. That's the word I'm going to start using. I'm going to be genuine. That's a good word.
You want to put age restrictions on shit? Let's put age restrictions on social media.
Right.
Cell phones.
Right.
Like, I'll get you an emergency burner phone if you need it.
For 911 and calling mom and dad.
And calling me. And that is it. Because I'm sorry, that has been the demise of this country, not to mention the kids, teenagers. It's done so... Listen, there's so much more negativity related to those things than positivity.
Absolutely.
Get rid of that shit. Give me a flip phone back.
Right.
I don't care. I'll figure out the T9 texting again.
It's terrible.
Oh, God, it's so bad. But I'm sorry. There needs to be... Obviously, it's not going to be a law, right? Or this hard and fast rule.
There needs to be more boundaries.
But you as a parent have to make those determinations. And yeah, you know what? Your kid's going to be pissed. And they're going to say they hate you and they hate their life. And they're so miserable because they can't have Facebook like Chelsea and the 16 other friends do. When they're older,
they're going to thank you. Because
I can't tell you how much shit you get grounded, or your parents don't let you do this, or don't let you go here, or they, I hate you. I'll never talk to you again. You're the worst parents ever.
Yeah.
And now that you're older, you go, son of a bitch, they were right. I can't believe I'm saying this, but they were right.
Have you ever just told your parents that?
100%.
I tell my parents that. I'm like, you know what?
All the time.
First off, sorry for being the special kid I was when I was growing up. But
you're still a handful. Let's get that out of the air.
I'm not even going to deny it. I'm not going to deny it.
I've had my work cut out for me.
You know what? You are a godsend for the things that you have put up with for the last 6 years.
Crown Royal Peach Tea does help, though.
It's a good medicine. That's why I stock him up on it, so that he sticks around. But I do thank my parents a lot 100%. And say, you know what? I hated your guts for that.
And if you're a parent, stop worrying about being their friends.
Yeah.
I think you should have a great relationship with your kids and your parents and your family in general, but you're not their friends. Mm-hmm. You have a purpose, and you are responsible for how that kid is going to turn out and what kind of that has no bearing necessarily on the transgender thing that we've been talking about, because it is so much further and deeper than.
Well, yeah, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, so I'm not targeting that. I'm saying in general, stop being their friends.
Right.
Give them boundaries. Give them, rules, structure. I'm terrified of how this country is going to be when that young generation now
No one's going to
Or
know what
adults.
gender they are. No one's going to identify as anything. And
Yeah.
and I'm not saying this to poke fun. Like I keep
Absolutely.
like repeating that because I truly am not transphobic. I don't care if you are trans. I don't care.
No, yeah, it
because
has no
you have,
bearing on me.
especially because when, like I said, most trans people, you probably won't even know that they're trans
Mm-hmm.
because they're not raising their hand going, oh yeah, by the way, did you know that I'm trans?
But it's just
oh yeah,
like
do you know I'm
anything.
trans?
That-
Are you trans? Oh, did you know that I'm trans?
That person needs to do it for them.
Right.
If that's what you want to do,
Right.
then do it. And we've said this about everything, whether it's, the transgender movement, I don't, whatever it is, you've got to do it for you.
That would be like me. And I know that I just briefly described at the beginning that everyone probably fast forward through the eating disorder thing, whatever. I don't really care. But that would be like me. Every single time that I met someone, did you know I had an eating disorder? Did you know I had an eating disorder?
Yeah,
you should baby me because I used to have an eating disorder.
You take away from the topic at hand and the seriousness of it, or the authenticity of it. But you know what I mean?
Right.
You in all seriousness, you really do, when you start to make this show of
It is.
or
It's
this
the best way to say it.
Yeah.
It is making a show of it.
Yeah.
When there are people who truly are trans,
Yeah.
they want
You're
to be
hurting
trans.
them. You're taking
Let-
away from them. It's
and-
just like the BLM movement.
Oh boy,
Is
let's not
another
get
thing.
too far into
But
that.
that's been another hot
Yeah.
topic thing. If you have seriously been discriminated against because of the color of your skin, and then you have other people who aren't even directly affected or related by it, watering it down, and you're taking away from the authenticity of it. You know what I mean? And the people that have really had those issues don't get what they need or deserve because other people have taken away
Right.
from it. I mean,
I just
Man.
I just really struggle with all the kids because
Mm-hmm.
like I said, when you have a little bit more maturity,
yes.
if you're a child and your parents take you get diagnosed with gender dysphoria, you presented all these things, you get into your teenage years, present as a boy. Go for it.
Yeah, if that's
Present
what
as
you
a
want
boy,
to do, 100%.
change your name, present as a boy, do all the things. Please don't do puberty blockers.
Yes.
Please don't do testosterone.
Yeah.
Just present as a boy.
Well, because what happens when you come down to earth a little bit and you've matured and you have figured out who you are genuinely as a person,
Right.
and you realize, man, I did this for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Now you have a harder road to get back.
Right.
Look, no matter what you do with this topic, it's going to be hard. Whether you are genuinely trying to become trans or change sexes or
Right.
genders, or excuse me if I'm not using PC terms, but
Right.
I'm still learning. It's going to be hard. But you don't want to do it for the wrong reasons and then have to try and
Backtrack.
correct that,
Because think about this. So, okay, this will be easy for you to wrap your head around it because you were there. We had a call a week or two ago in the
Yeah, it's
city.
been a
We've
little
been
bit.
there before.
Yeah, we have a little bit of history.
It is exactly the situation
Yes.
I described.
Yes.
A girl mom said this girl, her whole life was, and I'm not saying that this is what you have to do to be a girl, people, so please don't come at me, but this little girl wore skirts and tutus and pink and all the things. And again, as a disclaimer to this, that doesn't make you a girl. I liked playing the dirt. I liked softball. I liked wearing shorts. I liked tennis shoes, but I also was a ballet dancer and wore tutus. And I was like, in today's day and age, they probably would have been like, she doesn't know what she wants to be, but then it was called, I was a tomboy, but tomboys don't exist anymore. I was a tomboy, but that's not a term that gets used anymore. I would have been considered probably a boy or whatever, but this little girl is textbook to what Abigail Shrier describes, girly girl. And then all of a sudden one day this girl comes home and says, Mom, I'm a boy. I want to be called whatever the name that she gave out. We'll say Tom. She wants to be called Tom. But she decides she wants to be a boy, cut off all her hair. She dressed like a boy and got rid of all her girl clothes. the premise that we encounter Tom is because mom calls us because Tom is making suicidal threats or has suicidal ideations every single time we encounter Tom. When I speak to Tom, because I go in to talk because not because I'm so knowledgeable on the subject,
but I have built a rapport with,
and I have a rapport,
with
and
them,
I think that Tom and I, they, because that's the pronouns they go by, they and them.
Okay.
And I make sure that I don't misgender, because that is a huge issue that Tom has, is they get misgendered by everyone. I make sure that I'm just very sensitive to the issue. I do all the things that I can do for Tom, get Tom the emergency admission that we've talked about. And well, we don't do it for juveniles, but same thing, get them to the hospital
same thing,
without
just
filling out the
missing
form.
a piece of paper,
And then talk to mom. And mom is the classic case of the moms and parents discussed in Abigail Schreier's book. I don't know what to do. I am just crying. Tears.
And it is a pretty good environment. I mean, family environment, home situation is perfect. So it's not, I shouldn't say perfect, but yes, it is not.
It's not a toxic environment.
No, not at all. Mom is a very, very nice person, struggling, hurt. You know what I mean? But
and doesn't know what to do.
Has no idea, and rightfully so. This is a new thing for Tom, for mom, for everybody involved, even us responding. It is a very new, unfamiliar thing.
Right.
But I just want to make a point that yes, I mean, it is a good environment.
It is a very good environment.
It really is.
Mom is doing everything in her power to 100%. Provide for
and conforming to
Yeah.
what Tom wants and feels that Tom needs.
Because she was told if she doesn't do this,
right, there's going to be negative consequences. Right.
Themselves.
Yes.
That is horrible. That is horrible.
And it's sad.
It's
sad that those are your options.
Yeah.
You know,
I know I keep circling back to it. Just really bothers me because, like I said, I identify with that group of girls going through the same struggles that I went through,
right,
that are going through it now. And then to compound that, once I found out all the things that the little kids are learning, it's not only affecting that group of girls, which I feel is where it started. It's what they call it, a social contagion, I think was the term they used for it, because it's in schools. I mean, it is, the percentages of girls going through this is extremely high. It went from like 2% to like 20% or something like that, which is insane. I mean, 2% of the population, I believe, is transgender, something along those lines. So, and now all of a sudden it's gone up extremely.
Crazy.
So it concerns me about the children and all the things. So to end this section, and I just want to transfer to another portion of it because I can't stop talking about this.
This is going to be a long episode, people, okay, so buckle in.
I got excited to finally get to talk about this. But if you are a parent, I just encourage you, please don't ask them, are you learning about gender? Don't, because if you feed information to your child, they're going to answer. You're kind of
forcing the hand a little bit. As far as
don't give them any additional information. I just encourage you to look at the materials that they're bringing home. Look at the maybe books that they're bringing home. Ask them about the things that they've learned. If they learned anything new, you can ask them about their friends. You can ask them about what their friends like. You can ask them a lot of different questions that isn't being specific of like
a little more generic, not specific.
Do not feed them information to bait them to answer questions specifically, because then you're going to get the answer that you're looking for, because kids are easily influenced. But that's the problem with this whole indoctrination, is that kids are easily influenced and schools are indoctrinating our children. Not our children, because I have children, but indoctrinating your children. In general, they're indoctrinating children, and it bothers me because I don't.
You're not even giving them a fighting chance.
Yeah, let them just be kids.
Again, if that's something you want to do,
No, it's not about wanting to. So correct yourself on that. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just saying, but if you are transgender, it is who you are. It's not from what I've read. Marcus is pouring another Crown Royal, so if you hear it in the background.
Sorry.
It's not a decision. It is, sure, there's decisions made. Am I going to have a mastectomy, or am I going to have a sex change surgery, whatever it is? Those are decisions to make. But from my understanding, it's not a decision. It is who you are. It is born within you. That is who you are as a person. Just like you are who you are,
right.
The person, and obviously social life has influenced the person you are today, just like life and circumstances that I've gone through have influenced who I am today. But who I am, generally speaking, as a female, I've always been this way. When I look at myself as far back as I can remember, I have always been a more masculine female. Yes, I liked ballet, but I also liked playing in the dirt and playing softball. And that doesn't make you masculine. I'm just using the opposites of, I liked really, really girly stuff, but I also played with army men and the little cars, whatever the little stupid, not Cars the movie.
Stupid Hot Wheels?
Hot Wheels, I couldn't think of.
Hot Wheels are not stupid, so you need to correct yourself.
I used to play with Hot Wheels, and I used to play with like that kind of stuff. So I liked all different sorts of toys, and it was just, that's who I am. Yeah. That was just who I was, that's whatever.
Okay.
And it's okay.
That's okay.
And it's okay, but nowadays, that's the problem, is that someone would look at me and think, she likes boy things. She might be a boy. And that's where it bothers me, is that why are we questioning
You're not letting these kids be themselves.
Just let them be a kid.
Just let
them be a kid. And if they make that decision when they start getting older, and these kids are not idiots. And if we stop indoctrinating kids and we stop forcing things down their throats, we can just let them be and let them grow up to who they're going to be. I feel like nowadays, gay rights have come a long way, which, first off, I'm sorry, if anyone is gay listening to this, if you're a lesbian or a gay man listening to this, I feel really bad for you, because lesbians do not exist anymore. If you are a butch lesbian, apparently, from what I have read, you don't exist anymore. You should identify as a man. And that is wrong, because people have fought for gay rights for a very, very long time. So is that
like the new social standard? Like, if you are...
From what I've read, like the lesbians don't exist anymore, and that's what really would bother.
Then aren't you taking away from what that is? Exactly.
Do you know how long people fought for gay rights? Like, I don't have facts and statistics on it, but they fought for it. They deserve it. You can love whoever you want to love.
100%.
I don't give a shit. Love who you want to love.
Absolutely.
But why? Just because it is very contradictory. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're saying that basically people can't be lesbian and they can't be gay, because you're saying that if you like a girl, but then the other one should probably be a boy if they're more butch.
Yeah, like you're switching
more masculine in their look or whatever, or they should be like gender non-conforming or whatever. Sometimes I'm a girl, sometimes I'm a boy. It doesn't really, you never know.
Yeah. We don't need to complicate it.
It's so complicated. But you're taking away
let
from
it be
gay
what
rights.
it is. Absolutely. Again, something people have fought
so hard for. And you're taking away from that. And it's like, what did they do all this work for?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, obviously it's still in place and that hasn't gone anywhere, but you're taking away from that something that people really truly fought for, that they deserved, and that they were discriminated against, and not so long ago. I mean, it's not like this was forever ago that this happened. Not so long ago.
Yeah, this is more of a current event. Yeah.
Right. So, it takes away from that. It's very bizarre. So getting away from the transgender, because that's one thing. I truly, like I keep saying, I am not transphobic. I truly believe, and I've had a lot of people disagree with me. I truly feel like there's trans people.
Yeah.
And if that is who you are, you know what? I am happy for you to do. I will support you in whatever you need to do. And I'm going to call you whatever you want me to call you. You know, if you tell me you're a girl, I'm going to call you a girl. You tell me you're a boy, I'm going to call you a boy, and I'm going to call you by whatever name you tell me to call you, because who am I? Who am I to judge you? Or, you know, like whatever, you be whoever you want to be. But now, talk about watering down an issue. You have transgender as the issue, but now we have the gender issue all wrapped up into this, which goes along with the non-binary, gender non-conforming. So one day I'm a girl and some days I'm a boy, and I don't really know what I want to be, and sometimes I'm going to be
fluid. Is that what
androgynous, which is just I'm nothing, which I'm like, oh, okay, so we have fought for women's rights, we've fought for all sorts of things, and now basically women just get shit on because women don't even exist to some degree, because there's nothing, like they're not even there anymore, like that the female, it's not there, you're just nothing, you're just kind of hanging out in the middle. It's so bizarre. And then you have the issue of misgendering people, which I'm sorry, there's a lot of people who are uneducated on the subject matter. Can you blame them? Because it's not, a lot of people aren't reading, like looking deep into this or whatever. And it's not like it's something on everyone's front page, you know, of their social media or whatever. But
you kind of have to dig.
I mean, you don't, but you do.
Well, but again, it's not something that every day when I open up, you know, a local news station, it's, you know, it's there and in your face. I mean,
but it is more than you think. So, for example, I won't. You know, I'm not going to use this example because I don't want to get yelled at. So, I'm not going to use this. Never mind. But yeah, the gender issue is just. I feel like nowadays you can just kind of be whatever you want to be, and it's just really watering down female rights, gay rights, everything.
You name it.
It's just kind of. So does that mean you can identify whatever race you want? Does that mean you can identify whatever probably anything you want? It's confusing. I don't understand it because here's the thing too, is that what is wrong with being, as myself, a more masculine female? Okay. So I think, maybe I'm putting this wrongly. In my mind, the way I think about it is I think gender is there's a spectrum of like male and female. I don't think gender is a spectrum in the sense of there's multiple genders. I think there's a spectrum of maleness and a spectrum of femaleness. Right. So you can be and I'm not talking about who you are sexually attracted to. So this has nothing to do with being gay or straight.
So more along the lines of maybe gender roles type.
So okay, spectrum? So that's a good one. So I feel like a lot of the times people think of gender roles, so you think of the woman like they need to be the housekeeper, the cook, the they wear dresses, they wear makeup, they do their hair, they have to meet a certain image in order to be female. Men have to meet a certain image of being muscular, masculine, athletic, whatever. And if you don't fit that image that is set as like a standard per se, then you're not a male or you're not a female, which I disagree with, because I think, like I said, that there is a broad range of females.
So you can be a female that cuts your grass, changes the oil in your car, you know, and you can be a male who cooks, or cleans the house, does,
which you do all those things too. I mean,
but that's what I'm saying. So as far as like the gender role and having more of a spectrum,
but more than the role, look at it this way: you can be a more feminine looking man. You can be a more masculine looking female, and that doesn't make you a man. Yes. And it doesn't make you a woman just because you're a more feminine looking, dressing man. Right. So, for example, and I'm not trying to like put what's the, like, I guess like a title, meeting like a certain, I guess, aspect of things, but
Right.
a gay man. So say, what do we say? Is it like metro, like a good way to describe when like they're super like, I don't know. I'm not really like good with like
I don't know the
gay
terminology.
I'm not
to
good
be
with the
honest with
terminology,
you,
but
but
so like a very well dressed, like I'm picturing in my mind, like super well dressed, dresses probably way better than I do, wears, has their hair done super nice, maybe wears makeup.
Right.
A couple of the makeup artists that I watch on YouTube
Yeah.
that I get my makeup techniques from, do not judge me. They do really good makeup. I don't do good makeup, so this is no knock on them, whatever makeup job I do, so don't judge them. But the makeup artists that I watch, they're men and they're putting makeup on their faces. They are gay men. Doesn't mean you have to be a gay man to be a makeup artist,
yeah,
but they are
absolutely.
all gay men.
Right.
But they are more feminine looking gay men, and they prefer more feminine things, doing makeup, doing their hair, doing whatever.
Right.
It doesn't make them a girl.
Right.
For example, the one that I watch, he has a beard and he is clearly a man. He
Right.
looks more feminine. He loves makeup.
Yeah.
He does makeup better than I will ever do makeup in my entire life. And he is still a man, and he is a gay man, and that is okay.
Right.
But he doesn't have to be a girl because he likes
Right.
makeup, which is typically a girl thing.
Yeah, or passion or
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
There are girls that I played softball with who outside of softball would wear boy pants. Do you remember carpenter jeans?
Yeah.
Mom, I hated when you made me wear carpenter jeans.
I loved
hated
carpenter
them.
jeans.
But I was a chunk, so that was like I think the only thing that fit me. But they would wear boy pants and more boyish clothes.
Right.
They were still a girl.
Yeah.
And they were, just dressing more as a boy. They still are a girl. So that's what I mean by spectrum. But nowadays that's not okay. Like that, there's no. You have to.
You get assumed you're something you're not when you have a certain appearance.
You have to like identify as something else just because you're not fitting the certain image of like what a girl and a boy is.
I think that's bullshit.
Why can't you just be who you want to be? And I'm not talking about identifying as a tree.
Right.
I'm talking about just
that's
being,
a little drastic. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but why can't you just be either a male or a female and just be whoever you want to be, just the same as if you're a transgender person, be whoever you want to be and just live the life that you want to live. I'm not going to judge you for it. Going back to the kid stuff. Let's not push this on our kids.
Right.
But as older, once we start maturing a little more, we can make decisions for ourselves. Why can't we just be who we want to be and just whatever we like, just put it out for the world and accept people for the way they are, whatever their body shape, size, the way they look, everything. Why can't we just accept people for that instead of always having to put some stupid ass title to everything, And then
I agree.
This is going to be a longer episode. I'm sorry, people, but I still like it, so it's okay. Marcus is getting tired of me. Maybe this will be the last part that I'll say about this. With the transgender stuff, going back to it, maybe this won't be the last part. I don't know. What about sports? You know how much this irks me with sports. Boys clearly have more physical capability than girls, naturally.
Right.
So what happens when boys start identifying as girls and start playing female sports?
Like the Olympic athlete, Laurel Hubbard, who is a trans woman who competed in the 2020 Summer Olympics in weightlifting.
Yes. Who apparently didn't do very good.
Didn't do well.
How about the MMA fighter? I forget the name.
Yeah.
It was like Talon or Fallon or
I don't know the
I think
name.
it was Fallon. But kicked it was a transgendered woman.
Getting to the point where when it's not even
kicked the ever living shit out of the female. I mean, annihilated her. And the female that was hurt was a good fighter. But that's not okay.
Right.
If the other female fighter, the biologically sexed female fighter was okay with it and said, sure, whatever, that's one thing.
Right.
But to just allow males into female sports, that really bothers me, because there's a reason why we have male sports and female sports, and now we're
I guess that's the
allowing
thing. So what if I, as a non-transgender male, wanted to go into any female sport and compete? Is that okay?
You can identify as a boy and you can.
But if I'm identifying as a male and I want to go to a female sport,
I would think you would have to identify as a female.
but that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Because I can change my title.
Right.
Or say, no, today I'm not going to identify as that person. I'm going to identify as this person. I can go in there and just dominate.
Right.
And walk away with whatever I want. That's
so. What's really bothersome about it is, aside from girls maybe getting hurt just because they can get overpowered by some boys, and I'm not saying there aren't female athletes who are better than male athletes.
Absolutely,
I'm not saying that can't happen,
right.
But typically,
genetically, scientifically,
genetically, males are going to have physical differences and
right.
different physical capabilities over females, hence why we have male sports and female sports.
Right.
That's why there's a difference. Because I myself trying to get a college scholarship. That's a new scholarship.
Thing.
When I was going through that whole process, is competitive as shit.
Yeah.
I mean, you are competing with a lot of girls. You are fighting for, a couple spots at each college. You're competing with a lot of really good girls out there. Now, and I'm just speaking from the girl aspect of it, because to me, a girl who identifies as a boy trying to play in male sports, no offense, she's probably going to get her ass kicked. So she's probably not going to make it very far in it. So to me, it's more bothersome when boys are coming to girl sports, because they're probably going to overpower and be better than the girls. They're going to come in, they're going to dominate these girl sports, and they're going to get the college scholarships over some of these girls. How is that fucking fair?
It's not.
It's not fair.
So, and I guess that's a big thing is if it's not fair and it's not okay. Again, I think you're taking away from the genuine aspect of being transgender.
Right.
I don't see how that's okay.
It's not okay.
I really don't. You want to be trans, that's fine. Stay in your lane.
Right.
And you kind of have to abide by or start your own group, your own league, your own bracket.
They have discussed that, and then the trans activists come back with that's discriminatory, because now you're making it where only trans people can be.
But then why can't I say it's discriminatory for? Oh my goodness, that was really chaotic.
What are you saying?
Why can't it be discriminatory for a male to go into a female sport? A born at birth male can go into a female sport and just kick the shit out of everybody. And that's okay.
I mean,
it just, there's no common sense behind it.
Do you want? Can I lighten this conversation up a little bit with a little humor? Because, and I'm not trying to make fun of the situation, but this is how fucked up our world is right now.
It's just crazy. It's just so.
So I would like to, because I just glanced over and I forgot that I had this stuff marked. So this is going back to Deborah So's book. These are a couple of the terminology that the trans activists would like us to start using nowadays. So do yourself a favor and please start using this terminology so that you don't get labeled as a transphobe. Okay? So, it is considered transphobic to say that women have vaginas, give birth, and have periods. Okay.
What are we calling them?
What are we calling them? So, we are calling them pregnant people, birthing parents, uterus bearers, and menstruators. Okay. I am offended.
You're not allowed to be. You have no fight.
I'm offended. I, as a person that has not given birth, I give a lot of credit to those who have given birth out there. It scares the ever living shit out of me, if I'm going to be quite honest. And I think that the women who give birth out there deserve a little fucking credit to be called pregnant women, not birthing people. Because guess what? Only women, biologically sexed females, can give birth out of their
Maybe if you're offended,
vagina.
you're the problem.
Well, I don't know. I just feel like
It is what it is. Why are you going to change everything? A complete history.
Because here's the thing.
If you're offended by something like that, I would like to know who's offended. Is it the actual transgender people, or is it these group of fucking wackos who feel like they can come forward and fight for these other people, having no real understanding themselves?
It's the activists, but the problem is that if a biologically sexed woman decides to transition to a man but keeps all female parts and gets pregnant while presenting as a man, they can't be called a pregnant woman because they identify as a man. So they are a pregnant person.
Well, guess what? If you're pregnant, you're a female.
Right. That's the confusion. So
It's not confusing.
Well, no,
That's
it's
what
not
it is.
confusing to me. It's just that's what
what it
has
is.
kind of
Yeah.
made it continue to be an issue. You're giving me a look right now.
No, I'm just
You're just sitting here.
just here.
Well, I kind of wanted to tie this up with like all the police stuff that I talked about. You don't want to wrap it up with that?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so I guess I'm trying to wrap this up, but I just can't stop talking.
Well, look,
about
I
this.
mean, it's kind of a hot topic.
It's
I'm just
even a
not
hot topic.
educated
it's
enough
an
to.
interesting topic because there's so much to it. So I'm trying to.
Well, there's so much. Yes, there's controversy to it. There's so many different aspects to it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try and maybe end this with the law enforcement aspects since we are cops. So
I am very curious as to how this is going to tie up because I'll tell you, it's definitely a new aspect. This wasn't learned or taught in the academy. It is this firsthand experience and knowledge that we're kind of getting as we go.
Right.
And I think it's something we need to be knowledgeable on as well as respectful of.
Respectful and sensitive to, because
absolutely.
if you're a person who is going through a transition, whatever, and you're identifying as a different gender, and I'm not talking about a tree. I'm talking about identifying as a
Yes.
male or a female,
Yes.
whatever the opposite, to be called the opposite of what you're identifying as, especially if you've requested to be acknowledged a certain way, that would be very hurtful, you know?
Yeah. And with Tom, who we've been
Right.
speaking of, we try to be, we try to be respectful of. Now, look, I'm not going to lie. It's hard.
I
because
constantly say her,
that is,
she.
Yes, that is one of the, I think that may be our only encounter thus far.
I've had, I can't think like specifically one or two others that I remember calling you going.
I have not.
Yep, there was another one.
So it is difficult to keep.
Not another. I didn't mean that in a mean way. Like, yep, another one classic to the Abigail Schreier situation.
Yeah. It is a hard thing to keep in mind and be mindful of because it is this new thing.
Do you remember? No, I just thought of this.
Probably
Do you
not.
remember on Christmas Eve, you had a traffic stop. We got a bunch of. I think we got a bunch of dope out of it, but I gave a ride back.
Yes. Yes.
And
On that main street. Yes.
Yeah.
There was a lot of us there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the person that I gave a ride back to was a transgender female.
Yes. I forgot about that.
And remember when
that was what, 2 years ago?
And remember this person, she identified as she.
So it was male to
female.
Okay.
Now she still had all male parts.
Right. She
was very understanding of the fact that it is obviously not a normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as though everyone in the world is transgender, so it's not normal.
Right.
She was not mean to us about it. She was very upfront about it when we were doing the pat down, because there was obviously a lot of arrests involved.
We asked, what do you prefer
pat down wise?
Yes, because that's still another learning curve that we're kind of in the midst of. Where does that
I pat down the top, you pat down the bottom.
And I think in some institutions and agencies, I believe it's what you identify.
Okay, so you're really.
We can just do a short snippet on that because we don't have a lot of.
No, you're really lighting some. You're really sparking some other topics when it comes to like incarceration.
Right.
That's part of the problem. Is that, and I believe it or not, California. I believe it's California is one of the prime ones.
Right.
If you identify the problem is mostly when you're a male and you identify as a female, you get to be incarcerated with the females. First off, what the fuck? Because talk about
what if you're just using it as an excuse?
Correct. So typically you worked at a county. I worked at a county for a very blip of a time.
Mine was a short stint also.
Mine was much shorter than yours, but I still have the understandings of the inner workings of how a county jail works. I learned just minutes. I still learned how it worked. I wasn't there long, but I still know how it works. Special populations, and I don't mean that sarcastically, but different populations, whether it was pregnant people, pregnant women, mental health,
segregated.
Sex offenders, they were in a different. They were segregated from general population.
I forget what we called it.
I'm not encouraging transgendered people to be segregated from others.
Right.
However, it might be beneficial for their own safety to not be, if it is a biological male identifying as a female, and the jail believes because it has. I don't mean it. This person has male anatomy, that it should be incarcerated with males. That would be, to me, a safety concern
100%.
That males incarcerated with this person would try and do harm. Not, I mean in a sexual manner. Would try and take advantage of that person.
Yeah. Or you're like, man, the heck with this. I don't want to go to jail and be there with a bunch of dudes and get my butt kicked or whatever it may be.
But
I want to go to a female pod.
Well, or what if maybe it's a sexual offender who wants to identify as a female to get in with females.
True also. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how they're going to work.
Because damn well, because of the issue being the issue and how it is now. Because again, people aren't able to be genuinely transgender, where they are privately, not in everyone's face, shoving the issue, just doing what they need to do to better themselves. Just like you and I do our things that we do to better ourselves, whatever it may be. We're not shoving it in people's faces. That's what most people do when they're bettering themselves. Why? I don't know. I just feel like it's gonna get abused, and it's already shown that there's potential for that abuse.
The issue is if you do what you think is right, and you make the wrong decision, you're wrong.
Correct.
So if you put, a male to female in with a male population, and they get assaulted, or something happens, and you're at fault for doing that. Whereas if you put the male to female in with the female population, and again, it's somebody who has ill intent or, whatever the case may be, and something happens, you're still wrong.
Right.
Or if you segregate them,
You're still wrong.
you're segregating them because of who they are or what they identify as, even if that's not what you're
trying to keep them
genuinely
safe.
doing. Yes. Because you get in this predicament of where do they go? And I would be very interested to see what the outcome of it is.
Right.
Where do you put them?
So if you're anyone that works,
or who pats them down?
if you're anyone that's listening and you do work at a jail, whether it be county,
Yeah, please
prison,
let us know.
would you
if
please
you've
email us
encountered this or
reach out on our Instagram. So email knockandtalkpod@gmail.com. I would be very interested to hear what your,
or if you know us personally, you can reach out.
Just let us know what they're doing, because I'd be interested in how they're doing it.
That's crazy. I wouldn't know what to do. Well, and that's why we asked that night of that traffic stop, like, hey, you tell me what you want.
She is the perfect example of a transgender person.
Yeah.
You are not trying to shove it in my face that you're a transgender person.
Didn't say a word about it until we got to that point.
Right.
Yeah.
And was just trying to be who they are, live their life, do their thing.
Yep,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I don't care. I don't give a shit.
Crazy.
And they were so cool driving home. Like,
maybe we'll try and reach, if we don't hear anything from anybody, we'll try and kind of reach out and see what the
information we can get.
Yeah. Because I would be very interested to know, and I think we probably should know for our profession and kind of get a little bit of an idea. I mean, and I've always heard it depends on the anatomy that you have.
But that's where I feel like
that's what I've heard.
It could be a danger, because if someone is truly a trans person, but they haven't changed that their anatomy,
that one aspect,
because in defense of transgender people, from what I understand, the surgeries, and I'm not just talking mastectomies, which first off, this has changed, but insurance paid for people to have mastectomies as transgender persons, but did not pay for mastectomies for those who were at risk for breast cancer. And I believe it has since changed, but just let that sit in your mind. But that was kind of fucked up.
Definitely hope so.
But anyways, that's a safety concern.
But see, that's what's crazy is you put this little bit of fear in somebody that if you don't agree with what I say or how I feel, I'm going to come after you.
Right.
And that's not the genuine way to go about it.
No.
Nor are you going to get anything genuine in return.
No.
You know what I mean? And if you want to do it for the right reasons, then everything that comes along with it should be genuine.
Right.
My opinion. That's just my opinion.
But I worry about the safety concerns for people who, not the generation coming up where they're going to be very confused as to who they are, but the true transgender people that haven't changed their anatomy, because quite frankly, the surgeries that they have to go through to change their actual sex is very dangerous and very crazy and painful, and can do
a lot of damage.
Do not very good things for them, where it is sometimes more beneficial for them just to keep the anatomy of their original sex and just present in every other way possible, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if they get incarcerated, which you should probably wonder why, like, what are you doing to get incarcerated, which is a whole other story, but why? But if that happens for whatever reason and they are incarcerated, it would be a safety concern to put them in the jail or prison of whatever aligns with their anatomy, because if they present as a female and have male anatomy, they are going to be at risk.
Don't they normally keep like sex offenders in general?
Well, but if they're not a sex offender, is what I'm saying.
No, I'm just saying.
They're just
so if you can,
drug offense.
if you can segregate or isolate somebody based on their crime for protection, because that has been a thing.
Yeah, Chamoan land.
Well, yeah, I mean, sex offenders go in there and they get assaulted, beat up, killed because of the crime that they've committed.
Right.
I guess that's something you need to look at, the risk versus, the action.
Right.
If it's better for them. Because look, if that was me and I'm going in there and I know I'm going to be a victim or I'm going to be at risk to be a victim,
Right.
put me by myself.
And I'm sure,
and that's just me. Obviously, I don't go through that.
I'm
But
sure that people who are being incarcerated aren't trying to be out there being activists going, I want to be in general population,
right,
so, but it's just something to think about in our profession. But on the flip side of things, aside from being incarcerated, we have to think about the potential for crimes to be committed on, like, in regard to investigations and things like that. And the reason I find this interesting is not that I do sexual assault investigations, but that I have had the opportunity to work on, or I've done like the interviews for sexual assault victims. And so I've been able to help out with it and just have that, I guess, involvement and learn a little bit with it.
right.
But so I'm kind of like all over the place. I just have so much information.
It's just like word
there's
vomit
just so
at this
there's
point.
so
Like,
much stuff to talk about. So I'll go back to the book When Harry Became Sally, to not be confused When Harry Met Sally, by Ryan T. Anderson. And I found it interesting because near the end of the book, they were talking about law enforcement, safety concerns, things like that. And to preface this part, you have to remember that when it comes to the gender issue, the transgender moment, whatever you want to call this that we're going through right now, and I don't mean going through is a horrible thing, but there are some...
No, it's kind of like this new...
There are some negative things going along with it.
Right.
There are issues with bathrooms. There are issues with locker rooms. There are issues with... I'm trying to think of like other facilities that would be... You would have an expectation of privacy and to be there with the sex that you...
That's another bridge that's going to have to be figured out. I mean, you're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, because when I go into a female bathroom, I expect to not see... I'm going to put it very frankly, I expect to not see any penises in the bathroom.
So I guess that's the biggest issue.
Nor do I expect to see any vaginas, but I'm just saying, like,
trying to filter out the genuine transgender individual versus the people who have some type of ill intent behind it because you're a voyeur or you're a, whatever the case may be.
right.
That's going to be a hard thing to filter out because you get into that muddy water of you're doing it for the wrong reasons, or no, that's prove it.
And then you're
Prove
putting hate on true transgender
100%.
people and then giving them a bad name. And
But then
it's
if you try to isolate and let them have their own facilities, then are you discriminating? You know what I mean? I think it's such a, and again, because I don't know a lot, I obviously have no firsthand knowledge. That's going to be a very troubling area to navigate.
they're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and I don't see a good way around it. I'm you know what I mean? I don't know how else to put it. I don't know how you decipher I don't know. I don't know how you get around it.
So in the book, they briefly discussed, which I didn't think the book was going to take this turn and actually like talk about law enforcement. So when I saw law enforcement included, I was
kind of glad it did.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that was kind of cool. They were talking about, and I'm paraphrasing, just kind of going over pretty much an entire chapter and making it much shorter for you.
Well,
so you're
let's
welcome.
not do the whole chapter.
Yeah. So it was two, I don't want to call them ex-cops, but ex-cops.
Mm-hmm.
They've been law enforcement. They went to the research side of things and all that. And these two individuals were predicting that the number of sex offenses in public facilities will increase while the reporting of these offenses will decrease in reference to the allowing whatever gender you identify as that's the restroom. That's the facility that you use.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the issue is that people, the reason the sex offenses will go up is because, as you said, there's going to be people who are going to abuse it, and they're going to
do that with,
they abuse
with
everything,
any crime you can
everything
think
they
of
can
now.
think of.
So I'm not just singling out.
This is not picking on transgender people.
Not at all.
This
It's just
is
the
picking on
topic that we're on.
motherfuckers who are using something to their advantage.
100%. I mean, I just, I don't know. I think it's so crazy.
This has nothing to do with transgender people.
No.
This has everything to do with people who are going to use the excuse
Yes.
of transgender
Yes.
to get
Bad
an
people.
advantage out of it.
Just bad people in general.
Which is then in turn going
Yes.
to give a bad name to transgender people.
100%.
But the reporting will go down because those who are victims of it are going to be in fear of being considered transphobes or bigots. And so you think about when it comes to sex crimes in general and just the experience that the minute experience I've had with being able to interview victims and just being able to talk to like DB and be able to hear their progress and like what they're doing, like with the case or whatever. A lot of victims don't like to report. They don't want to talk about it. They, feel a certain way about things, whatever.
Which is, that's sad in itself.
We'll do an episode on that.
But we do have
like
a lot of those issues, again, outside of the transgender community.
Right.
Where people back out or don't report because they're afraid of a certain thing.
Yeah, afraid of criticism, afraid
Yes.
of being called a name, afraid
100%.
of whatever. So they're afraid that reporting is going to go down, but they were predicting that those crimes will go up. And, it's something to consider because, there was a...
Can this, as of now, I don't know, this is my own ignorance, but can it be classified as a hate crime?
What do you mean?
If something is committed against a transgender individual.
I don't know if they've actually written it into the statute. I would assume yes.
Let's do a little bit of because I don't know what all it qualifies.
I would think so.
You know what I mean? Like what?
So.
Yeah.
While you're looking that up, so it's something to consider for any officers that are listening to this. How are you going to determine if a crime occurred? Because if, say, for instance, you have so most states have, I want to say pit stop. What's the rest area? I keep wanting to say pit stop.
Pit stop
make
works
a pit
too,
stop.
yeah.
Rest areas. So most states have rest areas off the highway. So whatever jurisdiction that would be, whether it's that state's
here in
highway
Ohio,
patrol
it's usually
or
the state that
the state patrol
takes,
but
jurisdiction over the.
But in where we work, the city we're near there, they do respond to calls over there just because they are closer. They have respond to calls. So determining whether a crime occurred at a pit stop, as I say, rest area.
Only get your tires changed, you get a fuel up, you get.
If you have a restroom, a lady's restroom, the little dress symbol on the door, and you have a female who calls 911 or calls whatever number and says that she just saw a male walk out of the stall with his pants down and his man parts showing, and she saw it all. Now that would be not okay and that could be considered a crime. However, what if it was, let's say this person identifies as a female, so he's allowed to, the male identifying as female is allowed to be in this restroom, so they are allowed to be in there, and it was accidental or something or whatever it is, can you consider that to be a crime?
How many times have you yourself personally entered?
I am not giving excuses.
No, listen to me. How many times have you personally entered a public restroom? A public women's room?
More times than I would like to admit because they're gross.
How many times have you seen another female anatomy part inside?
Vagina?
Yes. Inside of that women's room?
Never.
I think you have to go
I understand.
on intent.
I understand what you're saying, but there's going to be a lot of it was accidental. It was whatever.
Right, but if you say it's accidental and I'm coming out and I'm shaking it at you or I'm gratifying myself,
I'm not
you know what
saying
I mean?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's none of that. They just walk out with.
Then why was it out?
I don't know because it was accidental, or what? And I'm just giving.
I get what you're saying. I just feel like if you can establish intent, whether it's male and male, female and female, I don't think you have to put a definition in front of, because if you walked into a woman's room and another female, born an identifying female, comes at you and tries to make you touch that anatomy or throws it at you or something like that, it doesn't matter what's between the legs or what you identify as.
Right.
If it is a crime or if it's an issue,
right,
then it's an issue.
I understand that. I think it's going to be a fear of lawsuits and things like being called transphobic
I
and
get
coming
I do. I get what you're saying.
Trans people, which
my
again,
thing, like you said before earlier in this episode, is the juvenile versus the adult aspect of it.
When
so
a
you should
little
not
girl is in a bathroom,
100%,
should not
or
be
a little male
exposed, should not be exposed to
not
the anatomy.
not
of
at all.
the
Another
opposite.
male or female,
Right.
same or opposite.
Right.
You should have no correlation between the two.
Listen,
at all.
I know that sex ed. Actually, we'll do a thing on that sex education. And remember, I told you I wanted. This is a teaser. I told Marcus I want to do an episode on porn, and he was like, "What the fuck?" And I said, I just want to use that as like a
clickbait.
Yeah,
but
clickbait to make it. But
it's
to tie it in with sexual assault and all that stuff.
We're not
so
just
that's
gonna,
just a teaser.
We're not just gonna scroll through sites.
That's
while
so
we're-
weird.
while
I would
we're on
not
here.
do that.
It's
I'm not like that. I'm an intellectual. I would do it. It would be tasteful. It would be good. But anyways, I totally lost my train of thought where I was going with this. But I just it's interesting. It's just something to consider as an officer that
Right.
when you're going to start encountering crimes,
It's gonna happen.
when people are identifying as the opposite gender as they may present,
Right.
or as their physical anatomy would say that they are. And when it comes to sex crimes are already extremely complicated and
Very,
do not
yes.
typically
And
go anywhere.
It's a very sensitive area.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is uncomfortable for people, whether you're the victim, the suspect, or the investigator of it.
Yeah.
It's a sensitive subject
Yeah.
to begin with.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Somebody's going to have to figure something out, because
I mean, it's going to be a case-by-case basis. And obviously,
and you're
I
right.
think that
I do agree with that.
police legal advisors, aka PLAs,
Help me out.
they are going
Yeah.
to be like, what the? They're going to have to really be a guardian angel in the
and
situation.
it might be one of those like, hey, FI everybody, identify everybody, and we'll
go
we'll
there.
figure it out. Yeah, because it's just this crazy.
But think about it though. And I just wanted to make sure I make this point. Again, in this situation that we're talking about, this has nothing to do with transgender people, because I guarantee you someone who is transgender and trying to
yes.
genuinely identify as the opposite gender is not walking out
They
of a
have
stall
no ill intent.
waving their whatever parts around to
100%.
they are trying to just live
Yes,
their
be
lives.
themselves.
This
And you
is-
wouldn't know the difference.
Correct.
And that's okay.
Correct.
Or even if you could spot things and go,
Who cares?
yeah, that might. It
Who
doesn't
cares?
matter. Yes, it
Who
doesn't matter.
cares?
If
Let them live
that's
their
you
lives.
and that's who you
This
want
is
to be,
ill-
that's fine.
Ill-intended people doing
Yeah.
and taking advantage of a situation
100%.
because something has gotten completely blown out of proportion.
Right. Or it's a good excuse
Yeah.
to create
and they found
or
a
do,
new way
yes.
to do
100%.
their thing,
Yes.
do their crime, do whatever they're going to do. So I think that's kind of a good place to leave it at that.
Man, where are we at? We're at like
2 hours and 9 minutes.
Like a 4-day episode.
I love it.
I'm
I
sorry.
was so excited to do this episode.
Well, all I'm saying is I hope you lasted this long.
I hope so. I'm sure I'm going to look at the...
If not, you can stretch it out. You can come back. You can figure us out. But
Yeah.
man, that was good. Because when we started, we're going, oh, I guess we'll talk about this, but we don't really know where to go. And look what happened. The longest episode yet.
Listen, I knew this was going to be a long episode. I was excited.
Yeah, and that's okay.
But truly, my disclaimer for the end of this, if you did make it this far, please just talk to your kids if you have kids. And don't bait them. Just talk to them. They might not be learning anything. It might not be in their school district yet. But just talk to them.
Don't hate on somebody if this is what they want to do.
Do not
this is
bully
not,
anyone. Do
yes.
not hate them. And if your child is at the age like I was going through
your own issues,
my own issues,
100%.
and they're going through their own issues, love them, care for them, give them all the things that they need because
be there for them.
They need that. They don't need you reading. You need to go read Irreversible Damage by Abigail Shire and When Harry Became Sad. You need to go read these books and educate yourself. That is not what the fuck they need. They need your love and they need your caring.
Absolutely.
But you know what you can do is you can educate yourself so that you have a better understanding.
And I feel like that's huge, especially now in these kind of uncharted territories to where
absolutely.
nobody knows. And I don't say that to be mean, but if you don't educate yourself, then you don't know.
Absolutely.
You have no idea. So
but be caring, be kind. You know what? That is the learning lesson of this episode. Be kind.
Be caring
and be
kind.
understanding.
We as a country and as a civilization have gotten so
mean
far away from that.
We're mean.
And I'm telling you,
and I hope none of this episode was mean. I hope none of it came across as mean.
That's not our intent. We are just kind of spilling some thoughts as we go.
Again, my biggest concern is the children and the age range that I went through my shit. Is that's my biggest concern. You do what you do, you boo boo. You do whatever the fuck you want to do when you get older. I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
Live your life.
Yes.
Don't indoctrinate it on our children.
But make a good decision.
Make the decision that's right for you. How about that?
Yep.
Make it what's right for you and make that decision and go with it. We'll leave it at that.
Plug us up. Drop our links.
All right.
Do your thing.
Email us, please, if you work at a jail or a prison or you have
first-hand
knowledge on anything when it comes
you want to share
to this issue. Or for future episodes, please email us, knockandtalkpod@gmail.com. And please find us at our Instagram, Knock and Talk Podcast. And we will be posting pictures. I think Marcus got a picture of Bonelli acting a fool while we were recording.
He was cutting
so
up
we're
the carry-on.
trying to do that.
I got some of you too.
Oh, great. I'm sure those were really pretty looking.
They were.
But so yeah, find us about those places. Still building the website. I'm sure by the time this episode gets posted, still be building the website.
Well, it's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. I just haven't had the time. It's just
if you have come back for multiple episodes, thank you.
Please share
so
us.
Much. Yeah, please share us. Shout us out.
It helps
do what
us.
you can do to help us.
It helps us.
If you want to come on, you have some stuff to talk about, please.
Heck yeah! If you want to come and talk shit with us, we love it.
We'd be more than willing to have you. You don't even have to have a topic. You see how that goes. We can just
talk about anything.
We just talk shit. That's what we do.
Actually, this is what I'll wrap it up with. You know what I found fascinating was that the last episode we recorded, which I'll tell you, it was yesterday. We recorded, I think it was like an hour and 40 minutes was our episode, which we're at 2 hours and 15 minutes today. So go us. But we recorded for an hour and 40 minutes. And then what do we say? We talked for hours after that episode. And I'm not saying we're better than anyone else. I'm just saying, I think it's amazing that we can sit and talk for an hour and 40 minutes.
A lot.
I can't shut the fuck up.
No, you can't. I mean, no, that's okay.
It's okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
This
was a lot of fun.
Please join us again.
Thank you for letting me talk about this.
Share us, shout us out, reach out to us. Like I said, if you want to come on and
no one talks to us.
Just BS and shoot the shit.
Come on,
bring it
to reach out to us.
What do you want, friends?
All right. Well, thank you guys.
We'll
talk
see
to you
next
later.
time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.